Solar system? Horrible places I would never go on vacation. Earth has terrible weather. Sometimes hurricanes and tornadoes rip off the roofs of houses or suck up cars and drop them kilometers away. In some places on the planet, it rains so hard you can almost drown looking up at the sky. There are deserts where it's hot enough to fry eggs on a rock. In other places, it can be cold enough to freeze tears on your eyelashes. Is there anywhere else in the solar system we could go to get away from this wild climate of Earth? Well, apparently, we would be spoiled for choice. Our solar system is home to 8 planets, a half dozen official dwarf planets, although the number could rise into the thousands once we fully explore the outer trenches of our solar system, an untold number of comets, asteroids, and planetesimals, as well as more than 200 moons orbiting the outer planets of our solar system. If Indeed has a very successful series of vintage-style tourist posters promoted by NASA would have you believe the solar system had already been colonized to such an extent that tourist agencies were promoting trips to everywhere of it, which destination would you choose? Before you answer, though, think twice. Our solar system is home to planetary environments of all kinds, but all with a clear common denominator, that of killing you as quickly as possible and in the most horrific of ways. Most of them, I guess you already know, basically all but one, are terribly dangerous places, with continuous deadly weather events of incredible violence. Places where you would not want to live either for a long time or even for a weekend. From Jupiter's centuries-old hurricanes to Neptune's supersonic winds, if you leave Earth, you will be shocked by what you find. Take heed. The weather on Earth can get pretty extreme and downright weird at times, and in recent times we have experienced some extraordinary weather events. But all these events will pale in comparison to what you'll find on neighboring planets. Sulfuric acid raining from the sky, epic dust storms raging for months on end, and giant hurricanes that could swallow Earth whole. If you think Earth has some bad weather, think again. We've warned you. But if you still continue to believe those NASA tourism posters, here's a quick roundup of what awaits you on other worlds with atmospheres. Mercury. Now, Mercury has little to no atmosphere, and therefore no real weather to speak of. But you would feel the full brunt from the most powerful storms in our solar system called coronal mass ejections. These explosive storms form on the Sun and bathe Mercury's surface in high-energy radiation. So if the lack of oxygen and extreme temperatures from over 425 degrees Celsius to minus 180 degrees Celsius don't kill you, radiation certainly will. Venus, deadly beauty. Almost as if compensating for its little buddy Mercury, Venus has an incredibly thick atmosphere composed of greenhouse gases, mostly carbon dioxide. Due to this dense air, Venus retains much more of the Sun's radiation. This cooks the surface of the planet to a consistent 480 degrees Celsius. And like a hellish rainforest, the heat is accompanied by supercorrosive sulfuric acid drizzling from the sky. Venus's surface is so hot, though, any rain evaporates before it can hit the ground or explodes violently when the sulfuric acid makes contact with some water. And if the acid and heat weren't enough, Venus is also under intense pressure at 92 times the atmospheric pressure of Earth. Needless to say, no attempts to send a person to Venus have been made, and any probes that make it there couldn't make it past a couple of hours on that treacherous surface. Mars, the planet. And bypassing Earth, we're already over Mars, the planet par excellence. Thought by some to have the potential secret to life on Earth beneath their polar caps, the dry, dusty red surface of Mars certainly resembles a drought-ridden wasteland. Because of its thin air and greater distance from the Sun, the temperature on Mars is much lower than on Earth, with average temperatures of minus 60 degrees Celsius. However, the climate becomes warmer and more bearable as you get closer to the equator. That might not sound so bad, but now the trouble begins. Huge dust storms, the largest in the solar system, can engulf the entire planet and last for months. Regional dust storms that occur every few weeks are more common, but are still large and can be very disruptive. The approaching wall of red dust stretching for kilometers can be a truly frightening sight. But it's not just global storms on the red planet. Also running all over the Great Plains are the so-called dust devils, miniature tornadoes that form, even here on Earth, when the ground heats up too quickly, causing the air near the surface to rise rapidly. Some are so large that they are even visible from space. In 2012, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter spotted one as high as 800 meters high and 30 meters wide. During a Martian summer, the polar ice caps, composed mainly of carbon dioxide ice, shrink and can sublimate, disappearing almost completely. This usually initiates a pressure exchange between the two hemispheres, capable of giving rise to strong air currents. Winds are present on Mars in many different forms, and although they can reach more than 60 kilometers per hour, due to the rarefied atmosphere, they are not, however, as strong or destructive as those that sometimes blow on Earth or gaseous planets. Hang on a sec, guys, before we continue. Be sure to join the Insane Curiosity channel. Click on the bell. You will help us to make products of even higher quality. Jupiter, the Fat King. And speaking of the latter, although we doubt that a visit would fit into your future space tourism plans, it is also worth briefly mentioning the hellish weather conditions on these gas balls. On Jupiter has been raging for centuries now that iconic storm we call the Great Red Spot. We do not know when it began nor when it will end, if it ends at all. The giant rotating storm is comparable in structure to that of an Earth hurricane, but it changes in size. Currently, the reddish vortex measures about 16,000 kilometers, but until recently, it was at least twice as large. Could it be about to run out of steam? Be that as it may, inside this great red eye, winds are blowing up to a speed of 600 kilometers per hour, twice as fast as the most destructive terrestrial winds. Saturn, quiet in appearance. But moving on, we find even worse. Similar to Jupiter in that it is completely composed of gas, Saturn has many properties that are similar to its bigger neighbor. It is composed of mostly hydrogen as well as ammonia and helium, but it's also much windier, with some winds reaching speeds of 1,600 kilometers per hour, far beyond the barrier of the speed of sound. Such a strong wind can't help but produce spectacular events, and so although Saturn's surface usually appears much quieter and more uniform than Jupiter's, every 30 years or so, the last time in 2011, a huge disturbance called the Great White Spot occurs. It's an ever-expanding storm where lightning strikes thousands of times more powerful than Earth's are produced, and over the months it comes to encircle almost the entire planet. In addition to higher speeds, Saturn's all-around temperature is much lower. The atmosphere is thin and cold, and the planet's north pole is a constant snowstorm. The upper layer, containing ammonia ice, is the coldest, with average temperatures of minus 173 degrees Celsius. Titan, the alien moon. Sticking around the unfriendly Saturn, however, we cannot ignore the existence of Titan, Saturn's largest moon and the second largest moon in the solar system after Ganymede. And that's not all. Titan is also the closest planetary object to our idea of a habitable alien world, endowed with an atmosphere, rivers, lakes, and mountains, which makes it almost a much cooler copy of Earth as it might have appeared billions of years ago. Titan exhibits an atmospheric blanket as much as 4 times denser than Earth's, with massive cloud formations that can make direct observation of the surface impossible. You might be surprised to learn that it rains and snows all the time on Titan. But while on Earth rain and snow are composed mainly of water, on Titan it rains mainly methane, a continuous drizzle that goes to feed lakes, rivers, and even glaciers. All are made of methane and other hydrocarbons. What makes the rain on Titan even more bizarre, however, is that because of the low gravity, you would see it fall as if in slow motion. Titan has about 1/7 the gravity of Earth, so even liquid methane would fall at 1/7 the speed of raindrops on our planet. But the weirdness doesn't end there. During numerous flybys of Titan between 2004 and 2017, The Cassini probe revealed signs of what appear to be sandstorms near the moon's equator. Titan would thus be the third body in the solar system where sandstorms are observed after Earth and Mars. Winds on Titan blow very strongly at the highest altitudes, with peaks of 430 kilometers per hour above 120 kilometers altitude, and tend to weaken considerably as one approaches the surface. On the ground, the speed is expected to be less than 40 kilometers per hour, with temperatures approaching minus 200 degrees Celsius. A decidedly hostile world, but very, very fascinating. Uranus, pale and cold. After Saturn, we pass by Uranus, twice as far from the Sun as the ring planet. Composed of gas and ice, Uranus has a unique feature compared to other planets in that its axis is on its side. Its magnetic fields don't match up with its poles, and many researchers believe it must have endured a collision to have been knocked sideways into that condition. With its axis lying in the plane of its orbit, the planet faces the Sun one polar hemisphere at a time, with a summer and winter lasting there for 42 years, equal to half the time of revolution. That of Uranus is a very cold atmosphere, the coldest in the entire solar system, characterized by a minimum temperature that in the dark hemisphere can fall as low as minus 224 degrees Celsius. The gaseous blanket composed of hydrogen, helium, and methane possesses a complex, well-layered cloud structure, suggesting that water may be in the lower layers and methane in the higher ones. The atmosphere is continuously swept by eddies and storms extending for thousands of kilometers, with winds raging at speeds of just under 1,000 kilometers per hour. Neptune, the house of the winds. And if that seems a tad excessive for a family vacation, then you won't like what I'm about to tell you about Neptune, the officially most distant planet in the solar system either. Neptune is also a gas giant composed mainly of hydrogen and helium, and the upper layers of its atmosphere are continually torn apart by winds blowing at truly supersonic speeds, with peaks of 1,930 kilometers per hour. This leads one to imagine what it might be like to stand there, listening to the boom generated by the wind as it passes the wall of sound. Only on Neptune, a sonic boom would not be an isolated event, but a constant, deafening cacophony. Can you get a sense of that? This hypersonic wind thing might surprise you, because on Earth it is the heat we get from the Sun that powers atmospheric circulation and wind speed. Neptune is about 30 times farther from the Sun than Earth is, so we should expect a virtually motionless atmosphere with weak or non-existent winds. Instead, here on Neptune, we find the most powerful storms in the solar system. And furthermore, the minimum temperatures, albeit only slightly, do not reach the record highs of those on Uranus. How come? The explanation lies in the fact that, as with Jupiter and Saturn, Neptune emits more energy than it receives from the Sun. Its internal source of energy, probably due to the decay of radioactive elements in the core, is enough to give rise to the fastest planetary winds in the entire solar system, and to make it lose the record for the lowest temperature. Make your own choice. After Neptune, we know would come to Pluto and then Eris, worlds perhaps even more incomprehensible and deadly than those we have just presented to you. For the moment, try to make do with Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Titan, Uranus, and Neptune. Now the decision is up to you lovers of extreme tourism. Have a safe trip, and good luck.